Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Lurk Talks, a podcast where I'm Lurk and I talk. And today's episode has been asked for a bunch of times, highly suggested by the wonderful community over at Twitch and in my Discord, and all of you sometimes in the comments, sometimes in my DMs. Remember, you can suggest episode topics in the comments down below or slide into the Discord or my Twitch or whatever. Today's episode is all about crystals. We're gonna go over the history of crystals. We're gonna go over like my experience with crystals and like what I kind of recommend from my years of using and working with them. We're gonna talk about some crystals' purposes and like what they do and tips and stuff when buying crystals as well. Buckle up, it's gonna be a long one, so let me know what you guys think about the longer Lurk episodes, because I'm more than willing to put the effort in as long as you guys show up. You know what I mean? What are crystals and a little bit of their history? If you are super new to crystals, well, they're these beautiful, stunning forms of matter that create like a three-dimensional lattice of atoms, molecules, and ions that are made up of crystal carbon, sodium chloride, and silicon dioxide. And even snowflakes can actually be considered crystals, but clearly they don't last because you can't keep a snowflake forever. It's kind of hard. They are a type of crystal, actually. We are clearly going to be focusing on the gem form of crystals that people have been using for centuries across cultures for healing. Crystals can be found literally all over the world. Just some areas have more of an abundance than others. They are usually found in igneous, magma, and interlocking crystalline texture. Sedimentary at parks. They're usually amber, organic materials, or minerals from like the sea or rivers, sometimes from lakes, in mines. Metamorphic rock, usually like a sapphire, as well as the sea. You can find some on like beaches and deep in the sea. They can be lurking anywhere and everywhere, sometimes even just on the side of the road or in gravel pits. Most crystals we have today, though, can be found from mining. Crystals have been around for years, and when I say years, I literally mean years. They have been used since the creation of talismans and amulets, so that basically dates them back to the beginning of humankind. The oldest amulets that were made of Baltic amber can date back to 10,000 to 30,000 years ago. The first historical reference to the use of crystals comes from the ancient Sumerians, who included crystals in magic formulas. The ancient Egyptians used lapis lazuli, turquoise and carnelian, emerald, and clear quartz in their jewelry and amulets for protection, health, and to purge evil spirits. More than just showing off their power, this is a super fun one I found out about the ancient Egyptians. They would use crystals to combat night terrors. That's really cool. And then they would also grind down the crystals for their cosmetics. So when you picture Egyptians and all of their makeup that they had, their sick ass makeup, that was literally ground down crystals. I had no idea until I was doing the research for this episode. I was blown away. I just think that's so cool to take the time to do that, and it makes this really beautiful makeup, and then Slay Queen, and the healing properties from that as well. It must have felt absolutely crazy. The ancient Greeks attributed a number of properties to crystals, and many names we use today are actually of Greek origin. The word crystal comes from the Greek word for ice and was believed that clear quartz was water that had frozen so deeply that it would remain solid forever. Amethyst means not drunken and was worn in an amulet to prevent both drunkenness and hangovers. So the next time you go drinking and it might be a hard night, maybe have an amethyst on you. Let me know if that works. I've never tried to see if an amethyst can prevent hangovers. Who knows? If it worked for the Greeks, why wouldn't it work for us? Hematite is an iron ore, and the Greeks associated iron with Ares, the god of war. So Greek soldiers would rub it all over their bodies before they would go into battle, or carry amulets with them to keep them safe at seas or to make themselves feel invulnerable. Crystals and gemstones have, of course, played a huge role in all religions, being mentioned throughout the Bible, the Quran, and many other religious texts. A big example of this is birthstones. The origin comes from the breastplate of Aram, or the high priest's breastplate that was mentioned in the book of Exodus. In the Quran, the fourth heaven is composed of garnet. They call it carbuncle, I believe. The kalpa tree in Hinduism represents an offering to the gods, is said to be entirely of precious stones. You see these in crystal shops a lot, the little wire trees with the little gemstones on the branches. It's kind of similar to like the tree of life in a kind of way. Buddhist texts from the 7th century describe a diamond tree near the tree of knowledge. The Kalpa Sutra speaks of hieroglyphs. I am so sorry that I might have pronounced that really wrong, but hieroglyphs. Question mark? The divine commander of the foot troops who seized 14 precious stones cleansed them of their lesser qualities and was said to retain their finest essence to aid in transformation. I wanted to show examples of crystals being used in religion because I think today some religions don't agree with the use of crystals, yet their books have a history of crystals in them. Cough, cough, looking at you, Christianity, and hello, rosaries are usually made out of precious gems. So, I digress. The Renaissance era, 11th century Europe, is where we start to see the use of crystals in a number of medical treatments. They were used mostly alongside herbal remedies, which I would really recommend this today. Healing is a full body and soul thing. If you think about it, we can stress ourselves out so much that we'll get sick. So a balance of crystals for mental, spiritual health, and then herbs for a more natural remedy, drinking tea, y'all, makes for a magical remedy. Also, during the Renaissance, they believed they had protective qualities, but also some believed the gemstones were corrupted by the original sins of Adam and could be inhabited by demons. So the practice of cleansing crystals before wearing them started. We can see the beginning of crystal healing more around 1609. Anselmus de Boot, a court physician to Rudolph II of Germany, suggested that any virtue a gemstone has is due to the presence of good or bad angels, believing that God made them to be helpful. Superstition started around this time as well, though. So that's where you're starting to see a little bit of a fallout with crystals. Like, people are trying to use them, and then we're trying to like associate angels and demons kind of thing with the crystals, but that you can cleanse them from those in a certain way. So you're starting to see a little bit of a fallout here. In the early part of the 19th century, a number of interesting experiments were conducted to show the effects of stones on people who claimed to be clairvoyant. Some would feel physical and emotional change when touching the stones. Some would even start to smell or taste things that weren't even in the room or that they hadn't eaten. Many indigenous tribes use gemstones as well throughout North America, creating sculptures and using it in spiritual practices, especially turquoise. Again, believing in protection and healing properties. And being from Vancouver, you can really see a lot of indigenous influence here. And I have always seen so much beautiful indigenous sculptures in jade or turquoise, and their jewelry being heavily related to jade or turquoise and other gemstones. Very beautiful. Of course, they've used it quite often and a lot. It's found literally everywhere, you guys. It's really amazing to see, and just note that there are so many examples of the use of crystals and gemstones in so many different cultures, and all of them using them for basically the same things when there was literally no interaction between these cultures during that time. So there was no opportunity for crossover, right? Insane. Jade, for example, considered to be a kidney healing stone by the ancient Chinese, and also the Aztecs and the Mayans. Turquoise, been worn for strength and health all over the world, and jasper for strength and calming. The 80s brought all the crystal and gemstone new age culture back as healing methods and old traditions with more information from experimenting over the years. And this started the spark of the rise of crystals and the use that we see today. Writing more books about crystals, their healing properties, to crystal therapy, crossing between religion and spiritual beliefs. It has been made more acceptable type of healing and practice to use crystals, so thank you to the 80s. Again, I want people to keep in mind crystals won't solve all your problems or ailments. They are a tool to help alongside your own work that you need to do. Your own healing along with side herbs and medicines or whatever you need to take. Remember, it's all about the mind, body, and soul at the end of the day. Crystals are just a great physical tool and carry some energies to help out your energy, but it can't do everything for you. You have to do the work yourself. That's a little bit of a history of crystals and like what different cultures and stuff use them for and religions and whatnot. What I want to get into now with that little history is give you my little history. I own, I think, just over 100 different types of crystals, or at least over 100 crystals in general. I have a little bit of crossover in some, like I have a couple amethysts, I've got a couple rose quartz, stuff like that. I can't even name every single one that I have. They were all bought with pure intention and being called to them. I just want to make sure that it wasn't like me going to a crystal store and being like, buy. It was like I went to a crystal store just to cruise around and ended up being drawn to buy certain crystals. And we'll get into that a little bit later. I just want to go into like what I use crystals for mainly, and then also talk about things that I suggest for beginners starting out in crystal healing or working with crystals. I use crystals for protection, cleansing, and when I meditate. So while meditating, when I'm trying to achieve something specific, I will either place certain stones on certain chakra points, which I'll do an episode on chakras, but each of the chakra zones are different colors. So using a crystal in that area usually helps heal that area, helps do work with that area, etc. So I'll place the crystal on a chakra zone, or I'll hold a certain one in a certain hand to either bring in or out the crystal's energy. So for example, the left hand brings in energy and the right hand brings out energy. So when I'm anxious, I'll carry an amethyst with me on my right side to take away the anxiety, but then when I'm meditating, I'll hold it in my left hand to bring in calming energy. Always been drawn to crystals since I was a wee little kid, like 4 or 5 years old. My parents would take me to a crystal shop every other weekend because we would go visit my grandma in Vancouver, and we would go to Gastown to eat at the Old Spaghetti. So shout out to any Vancouverites or tourists that know of Gastown and have been to the Old Spaghetti Factory. I should do an episode on it because it's haunted, and I would love to actually try and go ghost hunting there. But there was a crystal shop just down the block from the Old Spaghetti Factory. They would have one of those little carts inside that are for kids that you'll find mostly now in like touristy shops. There's a little cart usually with a bunch of different colored rocks, and like they're not actual crystals, they're just colored rocks that have been tumbled, and it's fun. But that's where my crystal obsession started, was with these colored rocks. And I also used to collect rocks too, and it went from that to crystals. I started using crystals more in my teen years, specifically being drawn to amethyst to help with the huge amount of anxiety that I had, and I still have from time to time. I feel more grounded having stones with me or crystals with me, just to feel like I'm actually tethered to the earth. I never talked about it a whole lot when I was younger because there was a lot of judgment back in the day around it. And even though it was, it's been a practice for years and years, centuries, if you will. But there, I just never felt comfortable talking about it. Fast forwarding to today and the over 100 crystals that I own, I make sure that I use them basically day to day. When I'm at work, I carry a little sachet with a small amethyst, a small rose quartz, a small clear quartz, and sometimes I switch it around, either a black tourmaline or a black obsidian. I keep towers of amethyst and black obsidian at my computer and I keep clear quartz and black tourmaline on top of my tarot deck that I use on Soul Sundays. So if you guys have been to my Soul Sunday streams, 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, twitch.tv/alurker02. If you want a free single card reading, come by. You'll see my big hunk of raw black tourmaline and my raw clear quartz, just to keep my deck clean and clear of any negative energies. I carry crystals on me depending on activities I'm doing and on my mood as well. So if you have any questions and comments, again, please let me know. Another thing with the crystals and what I carry on me, amethyst, because it helps keep calm. Usually if I'm driving someone to the airport or picking someone up from the airport, I'll have amethyst on me, just because airports are so stressful, especially when you're not in the mindset to take a flight, like you're just driving someone there or picking someone up. It's nice to just have something calm on you. Also, here's a little tip for anyone who's a Scorpio. It's really good to have black obsidian on you, but anyone who's a big empath, it is really great to carry black obsidian on you. It will help keep people's darker energies off of you. We'll get into crystals a little bit more in depth in a second, but just pre-tips. Here's a few crystals that I've noticed from my personal experience that I find are a great place to start for beginners. And again, at this moment, I am 31 years old and I have been using crystals for a very long time in my life. So this is just based off of my journey and my knowledge and what I know these crystals do. But again, it can differ from person to person. So please do your own research too and what's best for you. These are just really good base ones to start with. Amethyst, clear quartz, and rose quartz are the top 3 that I usually suggest, and they're the easiest to find and bring in the best step forward into the crystal world. Amethyst for the calm energy, anxiety reducer, because who isn't stressed out or anxious? Clear quartz for protection and cleansing energy of yourself or your space. And rose quartz to help with self-love and healing that self-love, since we all struggle from time to time with that. So it's important to love yourself, since you have to spend your whole life with yourself. So why not have a stone around that's going to help you a little bit? From these, it depends person to person where you want to go. Now, all crystal shops have information with the crystals and what they're used for, what their primary purposes kind of are. And people in these metaphysical shops are usually more than willing to help you out. So just read the tags and go off of what you are feeling drawn to. Black tourmaline and moldavite, I just really want to touch on those quickly, because moldavite is a green stone that is known for cleansing out, clearing out, not even cleansing, clearing out anything that's not serving you anymore. Extreme negative energies. Whatever's not yours, it'll be gone. I want to touch on moldavite a little bit because of the fact that during 2020 era Panini, I noticed on TikTok, a lot of people were buying moldavite thinking, oh, this will be really good for me to just clear out what's not serving me. Do you want to be homeless? Do you want to lose your job without having something else lined up? I don't think so. I don't think we want just upright upheaval. No one's really ready for that when they're just a little baby starting in the crystal world. So please don't get moldavite unless you are super ready. But black tourmaline will help you the same way moldavite will, but not as extreme. It will help you clearly see yourself in a slow burn what is no longer serving you, and things that aren't serving you anymore. They won't just leave in a blink of an eye. They will leave very gradually and like slowly. So they're going to be walking out the door and you're going to notice that, whereas moldavite is just one day, everything's gone. Black tourmaline, my sweet little babies that are new to crystals, please. Leave moldavite for people that really need to do that further down the road when they're ready, okay? So those are the top crystals that I would suggest to anyone starting out, and that I use most often, and that you'll see most other people use most often. Even like more our witchy friends are going to be using like rose quartz and clear quartz a lot in spell work and stuff like that. So these are baseline crystals that you'll gravitate to almost every day. That's why I'm recommending them. It's also just a great way to start. Again, really recommend doing your own research, looking around at your local crystal shop or metaphysical store. When you go out and you buy your crystals, right, you've done your research, or you want to get these baseline crystals and you're going to the store. When you get those sweet babies and you're going to take them home, you need to cleanse your crystals. I'm gonna just yell at you guys for the rest of this podcast. You need to cleanse your crystals the minute that they come into your house. So anyways, we're gonna talk about cleansing. Cleansing is a form of cleaning and clearing your crystals from either overuse to help get their power back, stuff like that. And there are many different ways to cleanse your crystals. So here are a few ways you can clear your crystals. Salt. So take your crystal and letting it sit in salt. Rice, working the same way as salt, just letting the crystal sit for a little bit in the salt or rice. Even a mix of the two would be really great for your crystal to just sit in. Some people will use their clear quartz to clear another crystal due to its cleansing properties. I personally wouldn't do that. I use it on my tarot deck and I'll use it on like my third eye or my body, but I'm not going to use it to clear another crystal because then you're just going to have to clear the clear quartz anyways and cleanse it. So just maybe stick to a different form other than using your clear quartz, unless it's something like other than a crystal to do cleansing, because that makes a little bit more sense. Some people will use sun or moonlight. I have learned not to put my crystals near the sun, as can be very damaging to most crystals, especially since they're mostly found underground, guys. Moonlight, though, is very cleansing, especially around a full moon or a new moon, and it'll bring in the certain energy from those types of moons, because full moons, new moons have certain energies wrapped around them. So you want to be careful, though. Some of our full moons can be full of chaos energy, and we don't want to put that into our crystal. But basically, you're going to moon bathe them. You'll put your crystals out by a window that's going to have moonlight coming into it. Leave that there overnight. Just make sure in the morning that you move your crystals away, because some crystals can become like a magnifying glass. I think most 90s kids, a lot of our cartoons that we grew up on, there's, kid with a magnifying glass taking the sunlight and like burning ants. Yeah, clear quartz specifically has been known to cause house fires because of the sunlight hitting them. So please just don't leave your crystals near the sunlight at all. It's damaging for them and it's damaging for your house potentially, right? So moon bathing, though, just make sure before you go to bed, and then when you wake up in the morning, remove them from the window, okay? Great way to cleanse your crystals. Pretty easy. The form that I use the most frequent and is probably the easiest one besides rice and salt, and what I suggest the most, is smoke. Now, by smoke, I mean from either incense, Palo Santo, sage, cedar, cinnamon. All of these things have very cleansing properties. Keep in mind when you are cleansing using smoke that you have your window open a crack so that there is an exit for negative energy. So even if you're clearing your space of any negative energies or anything like that, just make sure there is an exit. Open a door, crack open a window so the negative energy can leave, all right? I want you guys to keep in mind also, when you are coming home with your crystals for the first time, you're getting ready to cleanse, we're sitting down, right? We've got our Palo Santo and our crystal and we're cleansing it. I want you guys to practice the mindfulness of that, welcoming the crystal into your space, asking for what you're wanting to get out of the crystal. So if it's a rose quartz that you're cleansing, like, welcome into my space, thank you for being here, and I hope that you can give me all of the love, self-love, energy that I need, and that you help me, whatever it is. If it's an amethyst too, for peacefulness, help reduce my anxiety, and thank you for being here. You really put in beautiful intentions into the crystal, specifically during the first cleansing coming into your house. Storing your crystals too, again, keep them away from sunlight. I already talked about how they can start fires, so please keep them away from sunlight, keep them clean, but don't be using harsh chemicals or anything on them. Just dust them, it's okay. Some people keep them in a selenite bowl. That's really cool if you have one. They're expensive, but it also cleanses your crystals as well. So that's really a fun way. I kind of would really love a selenite bowl just to kill two horses with one stone. You know what I mean? I personally keep my crystals on my altar away from sunlight and cleanse them weekly to bi-weekly, or based off of how much I've used it. Specifically, like if I've had a really anxious month, let's say, and I've been having my amethyst on me for a long time, I will cleanse that weekly, if not, or every other day. I've rambled on about a bunch of crystals throwing out small properties that they do, and we've talked about the history. We've talked about how to care and cleanse them and how to store them. So I want to now actually talk about some crystals and their purposes. This is going to open your mind to like what other crystals do and a little bit more in-depth look at some of the crystals I've already mentioned. And we're also going to talk about some rare ones that I had never heard of. So I hope you guys are ready for this. Clear quartz, one of the most powerful crystals, great for therapy, channeling energy, and clearing negative energy. This crystal is white but clear, translucent in color. Rose quartz, known as the love stone, it's for emotional healing and compassion. It is pink in color and slightly translucent. Amethyst, known as the peace stone. It helps with intuition. Again, if you know the chakras, purple's at the head, your crown, third eye, connects with the spirit world, all that jazz. It brings balance, higher wisdom, great anxiety, and stress reliever. I also want you guys to keep in mind a lot of crystals have crossover in some of the purposes and properties that they carry. Just some of them bring it like tenfold, and some are just like, yeah, we vibe in. You know what I mean? Very different energy levels between the crystals. Turquoise, the power stone. Kindness, protection, heaven and earth. This is a light blue turquoise in color stone. Obsidian, the protection stone. Grounding, protecting, knowledge. It's black in color. Typically found more so in the tumbled form rather than raw form. I'll talk about that in a second. Obsidian is really good for shadow work, great for Scorpios, great for empaths to carry. Tiger's eye. This stone is orange and black in color, hence it being named after a tiger. It's the confidence stone, inspires bravery and sensible behavior. Blue lapis. Blue in color, this is the friendship stone, celestial energy and protection. Aquamarine, light blue in color, aquamarine if you will, the courage stone, soothing, balance, and peace. Very similar to amethyst, but since it's blue, it would be working more with your throat chakra over your crown and third eye. So really being able to speak up, speaking peace, speaking that you need balance, the courage of it all, right? To be able to speak your words. Citrine, yellow in color, is the stone of success. It helps bring success into your life, brightness, positive energy, and good luck. Emerald, green in color, is the growth stone, spiritual awareness, wisdom, and protection. Black tourmaline, black in color and typically found in its raw form. It is a clearing stone, helps connect to the earth, clear undeserving or negative energies, and protection. Moonstone, black and white in color, is the journey stone, assists in inwardly finding hidden truths. Jade, green in color, inspiring stone, inspires, induces ambitions of goals. If you want to have a little bit more of a kick and a drive to go towards your dreams and your goals, jade is the stone to have. Here are a few rare crystals that I found. Painite, red, orange, and blackish brown in color, a very rare crystal that has been misidentified as a ruby before. Used as a chakra opener, balance, strength, and healing. Thought to bring pain relief and clearing unwanted thought patterns. This is the rarest crystal in the world, and boy, if I could get my hands on it, oh my god, I'd be all over it. Alexandrite. Described as the emerald by day, ruby by night, this rare crystal changes color from bluish green in daylight to a purple red under incandescent light. Said to bring good luck, good fortune, and love. Balance between physical and spiritual worlds and the astral plane. I just want all of the rare crystals. They just seem so strong and amazing. Black opal. one of the rarest and most valuable forms of opal. Known for its dark body tone and vibrant play of colors, boosts strong protective qualities, enhance creativity and emotional expression. Associated with the root chakra, promotes grounding and stability and helps with fear and anxiety. So some things to keep in mind, guys, when you're going to buy your crystals. Again, do your research too. Don't be afraid to ask questions, especially because you want to be aware of fake or unsustainable crystals. And you can usually tell right away if a shop is trustworthy or not. Honestly, a quick, easy Google search or ask at the shop. A good question to ask is, what more information do they have on the crystals? Where did they buy the crystals? Where is the origin? If they are able to tell you the origin of the crystal, you're usually buying from someone who bought sustainably. I know it gets a little tricky because they can know the origin, but like, is that origin of the mining, like, are they sustainable? That's a little bit, that's a Google search, you know what I mean? So you can always message your metaphysical shop first and ask, but the more information someone's able to give you, you're going to suss out the fake or unsustainable crystals, especially if they can tell you the origin. And most of them can. Most metaphysical and crystal shops are very, very trustworthy. You can really tell the difference, especially just the energy of the store too. I know there's some crystal stores that I've gone to and you can walk in and I just feel pain and sadness from the crystals. And then some you walk into and it's light, airy, and beautiful energy. These people do go to like trade shows that travel around North America, here at least. And it's people who work with mining places around the world that mine specific crystals. So you just really have to do your research. But again, most metaphysical stores are super trustworthy. Just ask questions. And if they don't have the answers, then walk out the door. All right. Also, when you are picking out your crystals, I mentioned earlier that I was drawn to these crystals. Now, I want you guys to keep your grubby ass hands to yourselves, okay? Because most metaphysical stores have their crystals in bowls, right? They have their crystals in bowls, or there's a bunch of them around each other. Do not touch anything, because the one you touch is the one you're taking, okay? Crystals are great at grabbing on to energy. If you are looking at a bowl of rose quartz, okay, and you're just like, okay, not really seeing any here, just shuffle the bowl around gently. Obviously, be gentle. Don't go bloop, bloop, bloop with your hands, because you're putting your energy on all those crystals. Just look at the bowl and you're gonna be drawn to one. Our eyes are very good, our intuition, you gotta trust your gut, but just look at them and be like, I want that one. Take it, okay? Don't put it back. The one you touch is the one you take, okay? We're going back to elementary school days. We were taught to keep our hands to ourselves and only take what we touch. This is also why I talked about cleansing earlier, is because and put pressure on, like, the minute you get home, have this beautiful connection with that crystal, because you don't know who else has put their grubby hands in those bowls, because they don't know these things. So you want to cleanse off someone else's energy from that crystal the minute you get into your house. It's a really good practice that the second you step in the door with your new crystals, you sit down and cleanse them. Okay? You sit down and cleanse them. You just don't know. Some crystal stores, some that are really good, will cleanse the crystals while you're checking out. But that is rare. It is so rare and far and few between. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful when they do that. But I also, because there's one crystal store that I go to that does that, and it's so beautiful. And I thanked her so much. I was like, oh my God, thank you so much for doing that. And she's like, people just don't know, so I have to do it for them. It's like, I know, but this is beautiful. And I still, even after a really beautiful cleansing that she did for me, I came home and still cleansed it anyways, because she touched it last, right? So it's just making sure that the energies are staying high in love and light, right? We want to make sure that we're bringing the best intentions into these crystals, into everybody else's experience with the crystals too. I also mentioned earlier raw and tumbled. Now, there really isn't a difference between that. The crystals are still going to give you the same energy and same vibe. They just look different. So raw crystals, I'll actually give a visual example now. So this is my black tourmaline. This is in the raw. You can see that it's rough, right? She's cut rough. This is like she fell out of the earth like this. And this is my clear quartz that is also rough. She's rough. She's gorgeous. They're both gorgeous babies, but that's what a crystal in the raw looks like. Crystals that are tumbled will look shiny and smooth. They got that like nice soft touch. This is a carnelian skull crystal. There's no difference. The tumbled crystals work just the same as raw ones. Sometimes you'll read online too that raw have a little bit more energy because they weren't put through that tumbled process. And I mean, believe whatever you want to believe. I've never noticed any difference between my raw and my tumbled. Tumbled though are easier to fake. So that's why you just want to make sure you ask the right questions when you're buying crystals, guys. Also, like my skull one, crystals come in different shapes and sizes and forms. Sometimes you'll see shaped ones, my carnelian skull. Sometimes they're like a Pokemon or a turtle. You'll find them in any sort of shape. It's good to ask questions just to be aware of those ones. Usually the shaped ones are typically not real, but again, you can ask questions because sometimes there are people that do artwork like this. Towers. This is a black obsidian tower. These radiate more energy into them. So they draw more energy down their tip and they expand it a little bit further. While a small little crystal, right, you'd have to hold on to it for it to do something. You'll also find crystals in wand form. Typically that's for our witchy friends doing spiritual rituals or cleansing spaces, though I've heard that the wands are really good for cleansing spaces. If you have the money to buy a crystal wand, that is amazing, and send me pictures. But yeah, guys, that's it on the intro to crystals. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Let me know what other podcasts you're wanting to see. I know I kind of talked about chakras, so if we need a little bit of a chakra episode, I'm still trying to memorize them. There's books that are like super thick on chakras, but I want to talk about the basic ones if you guys are willing for that. But let me know what you guys want to see next, and I appreciate you guys. Please like, comment, subscribe. Word of mouth is probably the best way to get this podcast a little bit more on its feet, but I appreciate every single one of you, and